Welcome to my humble abode, darlings. Come in out of the rain and get comfortable. I have a story to tell you, and I hope you enjoy. If you do, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. The Cardboard Box Incident by Scare in a Box. The snow stopped falling a few hours ago. What was once an overcrowded city is now a frozen wasteland. You can hardly distinguish the houses between them. The roofs are barely visible above the snow accumulation during the last month. The trees have already succumbed to the cold and the weight of the ice, while the animals have taken refuge with the humans, inside houses and other buildings. The wild animals? I don't know. I never really thought about them. Some must have died already, I suppose. Others must have been having a great time, like the polar bears. Or maybe these temperatures are too low even for them. And the temperature keeps falling. Nobody knows when it'll stop or if it's reversible. Nobody knows exactly how the whole world ended up this way. Of course, we all know the why, but not the how, because everything happened in such a strange way that nobody understands. All the physicists in the world try to explain it, to solve it, but they couldn't. Now the entire population of Earth is in underground bunkers, those that had been built in case of nuclear war. They are the only places with enough insulation to resist low temperatures, at least for a while. Nobody knows exactly how much will survive. Everything depends on the amount of provisions that each one has saved. I have enough for several years, of course. I wasn't going to build an anti-nuclear bunker and then not refuel it. The food may not last me for several decades, but I'm sure I can survive at least 5 years. And perhaps in that time, the earth has already warmed up again, or the cold has killed me. Anyway, I guess the food will do. In addition, I have the perfect entertainment set, which is also not dependent on the internet, because the internet no longer works. It's been down for several weeks. The same with telephone communications, television, and even the radio, which was the last to fall just 2 days ago. Everyone knows that if the radio stopped working, it was only a matter of time before the temperature would drop so low that it would cause flash freezing. The last words heard were, "Please survive." I have no idea who said them, the president perhaps, or some scientist trying to encourage himself and others to have time to find a solution. It was as if he was saying, "Please survive, so someone is there to see that we succeeded." Or, "Please survive so we don't have to take the blame for humanity's extinction." The reality is, it really was the fault of the scientists. Or at least that is believed, because once again, nobody knows exactly how. Teleportation, that was the great invention they were testing. The first teleportation machine in history. The theory was perfect. The machine had been built following the instructions to the letter. Everything had been checked at least 10 times. The task was, in theory, simple: transporting a cardboard box from point A to point B. At both points, one of the machine halves was located, the transmitter and the receiver. The distance wasn't very big, barely 2 meters. It was the first attempt, after all. They couldn't ask much of it. The cardboard box was placed on the transmitter, right in the middle of the small circular platform that made it up. The protective bubble was placed on top of the box and fitted perfectly onto the platform. On the other side, the receiver was exactly the same, except that the moment it was, of course, empty. They activated the mechanism, and instantly the machine began to work. It first undid the little box, little by little. Witnesses says it looks like a 3D printer, but in reverse. every single atom in the cardboard box was disengaged, allowing the box to enter the proper liminal state to be carried through the air, across the room, and captured by the receptacle, where it would be rebuilt. The problem was that once the box disappeared, it didn't reappear. Scientists, technicians, and engineers reviewed their equations and plans, but found no errors. Both machines were perfect, but no matter what they did, the box wouldn't come back. Nobody knows exactly how long it took from that first test until everything went really wrong. None of those involved in the project said anything, no matter how hard they were pressed. The most they could say was that they had no idea what happened. At this point, everyone believed them because nobody has a clue. But at the time, nobody did, and they were accused of being the horsemen of the apocalypse. The thing is, a month ago, the cardboard box appeared. The problem was that it didn't appear on the receiver of the teleporting machine. It didn't even show up in the room where the experiment had been done. No, the box appeared in outer space, floating, and it didn't end there. The first one was followed by more and more. The boxes continued to appear throughout space, around the planets, around the moons, even around the sun itself. The satellites were blocked because the cardboards didn't allow the waves to pass. That's when the internet went down, and everyone really freaked out. Where were they going to upload the videos of what was happening? Where did they go to fight strangers? Who would they tell their conspiracy theories to? Television was next to fall. Everyone was desperate except the owners of the newspapers, who were able to put the old printing presses back into operation. The world seemed to go back to the beginning of the 20th century, when only paper newspapers and radio existed. Antique dealers made money, selling old radio sets that had been forgotten for decades. The last image NASA received from space telescopes was so strange and terrifying that no one knew what to say. Not even the news headlines were able to come up with a sensational phrase. The reality was worse than anything they could exaggerate. The space was filled with cardboard boxes. Literally, the image from the satellites had shown NASA that the boxes were not only around the Earth, but also around all objects in the universe. Planets, stars, even galaxies. It was as if the empty space in the universe had been replaced by cardboard boxes. All because an experiment had gone wrong. In the first week, the sky seemed to be on fire. Looking up, large flares could be seen streaking across the sky, caused by the boxes crashing into the Earth's atmosphere and burning up in the process. And since the boxes were everywhere, the whole sky was constantly crossed by flames. Eventually, the flames stopped, and darkness engulfed everything. The boxes blocked the sunlight. That's when the temperature started to drop. The snow soon appeared, covering everything. It was not long until the entire population had to take refuge. And the temperature kept dropping. No one knew what the limit would be, just as no one knew whether it could be reversible or how long we would survive. For my part, I don't have much hope. I was never someone who understood much about science, but I'm sure that if the boxes are still up there, it will be over soon. I'm not even sure if all the supplies I have will do any good. The bunker, after all, was built to survive a nuclear disaster, not a permanent winter. The walls are thick and well insulated, but I can already feel the cold coming in. I have a stove, but only one, because I never thought it would be so cold. It was never so cold here where I live, and no one ever told me to worry about that. I should have grabbed another one before I went in, but All I got was blankets. All the ones that were in my house, which weren't many either. I already have one around my body because I started shivering just now. I'm next to the stove. I'm wearing the thickest jacket I have, but the cold seems to be coming in. It's been almost 3 days since I got into the bunker. The radio is static, and I don't even have the heart to watch movies. I'm afraid I'll freeze while doing it without realizing it. I have a cup of hot coffee in my hands. I left the kitchen on to heat the environment a little more, but I know I'm going to have to turn it off soon because the bunker is hermetic, and although it has an air purification system, I can get poisoned by the combustion gases. That's something they always told me when I built it. I had to be careful with the kitchen. I wonder what would be less painful, death by cold or gas poisoning. If the internet existed, I would look it up, although I really don't know if I want to know the answer. I get up, dragging the blanket behind me and finishing turning off the stove. It's better to be cautious. I go back to my place by the stove and grab my cup of coffee. It really helped me warm up a bit, but not too much because it cooled down really quickly. The last sip I take seemed to be taken from the fridge. This damn bunker has been turned into an ice cream parlor. I bet if I turned off the refrigerator I have, things would stay the same. And that makes me wonder how long it will be until the power goes out, because I'm sure the cables and power plants must have already be having problems. I know of some areas that have had a lot of blackouts. Here, luckily, nothing happened yet. I hope it lasts a long time. I don't want to imagine what it will be like to be cold and on top of that, being in the dark. Well, it would be almost like being outside, I suppose. Outside with the dark sky, without stars and without sun, without even being able to see the light of the moon. Just cardboard boxes, which are not even visible from here. We only know that they are there because of the flares in the photos. Damn teleportation. Nobody needed it. Why did they have to invent it? It's useless. It wouldn't solve anything. Why? I guess it's nobody's fault, really. No one could have imagined that the experiment would go so wrong. After all, in whose head could someone like this would bring about the end of the world? I wrap myself in another blanket. I don't know if it's really cold or if I'm just imagining it. I look at the clock and see that it's already night. But I can't sleep. I don't want to risk falling asleep and never waking up. Damn, it's really cold here, I whisper to myself. And to no one in particular. To the universe. So close. This raven. That would be a horrible way to go, and one I can understand. I did manage to relight my furnace this morning on the second try, which is really, really good for me. I hope 2023 is starting so much better than the rest of the 20s have been for us. Here's hoping. Stay warm, my darlings. Thank you for stopping by, my darlings. It means so much. I so enjoy telling these stories for you. And here are some of my marvelous supporters. Please, if you haven't subscribed, consider doing so. If you give this video a like, it would help me out ever so much. Thank you, and have a lovely, lovely day.